Joseph, we're live.
Hi.
Thanks for being with me. I know you're having an issue with your camera, but if you could actually move to your right just a little bit, we could actually see. Yes, perfect. Then we can see all of you. Excellent. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to
Hi.
my series of Rockstar entrepreneur interviews.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here. And I know we had a very long discussion about the world of education, and we really have a lot in common. So I'm very
Me
excited
too.
to have this conversation.
Yeah, me too. And I think we're going to actually, one of the things that is built right into one of my questions is, hey, you and I have the same mindset when it comes to this, what needs to be done in the world. So I am going to just make sure. Do we have any viewers yet? It says we're live. Okay, we've got some people. Hello, everyone. How are you? Please leave some comments on the video so we know who's here and where you're from. Today we're talking to Joseph Jeong, and Joseph is actually in Hong Kong right now. And I just learned that next week he's going to Kazakhstan, right?
Yeah, Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan, excuse me. And we've got him just before he's traveling around the world, because after that he comes to my city to run his program called Future Hack, which we're going to talk a bit about today. So, all right, teach me. This is a teaching moment. Pronounce the name of that. Kazakhstan? No, Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. And I'm hoping I'm saying it right because a lot of times, locally they say it differently. So,
Well, you're teaching me. We have members in this classroom from 86 different countries that we know of, and including that country. And I'm always learning more. I'm learning more about culture, about language, about how to pronounce things. So thank you. So hello, everyone. We're so happy to have you here. If you've been following me in my Rockstar Entrepreneur interviews, you'll know that it's actually been several months, actually since last year, that I did any of these. And what's really important to me with these interviews is finding really interesting people who are doing really important and unique work to give you examples of what it means to be an entrepreneur. And today we're going to learn a little bit from Joseph about what he's doing, what his journey's been, why he's doing what he's doing. And he's going to give you some pointers, some tips for how you can become an entrepreneur and how you can turn your crazy idea or your dream into a reality. So let me tell you, Joseph, let me get right into this here. But let me just double check that we are, yep, we're up online. And as I said, I would welcome you all to please put some comments. Tell us where you're from. Where are you watching from? This is a global classroom, and you might have found this from Rayhan's page. You might have found this from SoCap. Tell us how you found this video today and where you're watching from, okay? So I'm in Boston in the United States, and Joseph is in Hong Kong, exactly 12 hours opposite me. So for me, it's just after 11 a.m. For Joseph, it's probably past bedtime.
I'm usually up all hours of the night, so
it's okay?
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, good. I think that's a common thing for innovators and entrepreneurs. We don't keep regular hours. Which is probably a really good thing, because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm most creative at night.
Yeah, right about 2 a.m. is the time that I'm most creative, which is a problem sometimes because it's not the time that you want to be up.
Right. That's true, actually. So, Joseph, let me introduce you to our audience. You guys ready to meet Joseph? I think you are. Let's get some thumbs up and some hearts. And again, put your answers in the comments to where you're from, where you found this video, and towards the end, Joseph's going to actually take some questions. So you can ask your questions as we go, but make sure to just copy it and then paste it at the end when we're ready to look at questions, because we can't scroll back up. So I'm super excited to have Joseph with me because, as he said, he and I do have the same vision for the world, and that is teaching young people entrepreneurship. That's all I'm going to say. And I want to tell you just a little bit about Joseph. So I'm going to read a short bio. He's an exponential entrepreneur, which he's going to have to tell us about. He's an investor. He's a speaker. He's an educator. He's also a Wall Street veteran and a father of two. He recently co-founded XL Hub. I hope I'm saying that correct. And which is an AI-driven online learning platform for advancing computer science. And he also has founded and is teaching entrepreneurship himself through his new Future Hack program. He's actually traveling all over the world to do this, so I'm excited to hear more. And I'm really excited for you all to meet Joseph today. As I said, he and I have the same mission in life, but we also have the same outlook, and where we came from is very similar. So I'm not going to talk about me today. We're going to talk about Joseph. So welcome, Joseph. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Let me start with this question. Where were you? What were you doing? Who were you with? What was going on in your world when you decided to do what you do today? Because what you're doing is not Wall Street.
I guess I can start with where was I when I actually started my career in Wall Street. I think we'll start with that because I started. I immigrated to the U.S. Many years ago, and we had very little when we landed in the U.S. And when I was about 10, 11 years old, I started working, and right around the time that I was 13. I was working at a restaurant, part-time, and actually this was in the suburbs of New York. And so there was a lot of Wall Street guys coming in with, very fancy cars and and fancy suits. And I had always wondered what they did. And I was very curious. From somebody who had very little to see somebody so successful. And, a lot of them kind of came into the restaurant. And so we used to I used to just ask them, hey, what do you guys do? And that was around the time that I was 13. And that is kind of why I'm teaching this program that starts at the age of 13 to 18 years old, because that's the time that you really switch on and you get curious about the world and you understand where you are in relation to everybody else, and you start to understand things and you start to think, hey, maybe I can actually change the direction of my life, and that I don't have to stay where I am. I can maybe improve my life. So this is also the age which I later found out just through reading a lot of books from Elon Musk, from Steve Jobs, and all of these entrepreneurs. When you look at their lives, all the successful entrepreneurs that we look up to today really started their learning journey at around this age, right around 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. They started their path on their own path of learning. And that is when they really got it and they said, wow, I can actually do something on my own and I can actually learn as much as I want. Um, and I can learn it at any time. And this is what I really choose to learn. So, um, so that's kind of because I started at the age of 13 and I started to learn an hour a day, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, just kind of, and at that time there was no computers and no internet. Okay. Um, and I just asked these people, I said, what books can I read? And they gave me a few books and they said, go to the library, get these books. I got books. I read the Wall Street Journal. I read the Investor's Business Daily.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the Financial News Network, So all of these things were free,
Yeah.
you know.
You know,
All the education that I got was free
yeah.
because I made it up myself, and and this was pre-internet. So today they have an exponentially more kind of resources than I did when I was 13 years old. So it's much easier to learn today and much faster to learn today because you have literally the world at your disposal. You can go and take any classes at MIT or Harvard or Stanford. Any of these classes you can take now, and not to mention like masterclass or the online MOOCs. There's so many things that you can do now that I didn't have when I was a kid, and so there's just one key, and that key is that you find something that you're really interested in learning, because that's the only thing that's going to get you going every morning, every day, saying, hey, I have an hour here. Let's learn some more about that.
It's so true. And you know what I love? I mean, there are a lot of things I love about what you just said, but you hit on two things that are super important to me. Number one is you get kids, you provide them these opportunities when they're young, when they're those early teenage years. That's when they're most creative. They haven't been told by the world that they can't do something yet, and they're excited. They want to do things. And then number two, you actually mentioned the role of learning from people who are doing what you want to do. So the idea of mentorship and building relationships with those people, listening to the tips they're sharing, reading the books they're talking about. That's how we learn. And that's actually, Joseph, what's built into my virtual classroom. I've got right now 12 and 5 more in the wings, mentor teachers who are experts in their field, just teaching what they know, an hour a week in my classroom. And I just love that. And I know that that's something that's important to you. But beyond that, you're actually traveling around the world to do this work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, growing up, I didn't really have a father figure. And so instead of, one father, I actually had many father figures that were, mentors to me. And, it's human nature for people to want to help those that want to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're curious and you're wanting to get to the next level and you're always wanting to strive and have aspirations to strive higher for higher goals, then people are going to want to help you. Okay. And you're going to get more and more help. But if you don't have any aspirations and you don't know what you want, it's very difficult for people to help you. So the most important thing is actually to understand what you actually want to learn, and have a really high goal what I call a moonshot goal, and what my son calls a Mars shot goal, because he says, "Hey, we've already been to the moon, Dad." So
Let's go to
uh,
Mars.
yeah, he says it should be called a Mars shot goal.
I
So
love that.
um, yeah, so if so, once you kind of understand, what you like to learn. So at a very young age, I knew I really wanted to learn about investing and making money that way, because I never had any money. So, um, but more so is that I also realized that I was naturally pretty good at math, and I really liked the finance part of it. And I actually looked at trading stocks kind of as a video game when I was young. It was like it was a video game where you kind of traded stocks, and you got higher scores. And so I actually really had a lot of fun doing that.
Uh-huh.
And once I realized that, then the next thing was to really have the highest goal that you can have. And so, in so for my college essay, I wrote that that I wanted to one day own my own investment firm on Wall Street, and so not just to have a job at a brokerage, but actually to own my own business on Wall Street. And I didn't know at the time when I set that goal how impossible it was for a non white male to actually own a firm on Wall Street. It was virtually impossible at the time that I said it. Luckily today that rule has been broken. That glass ceiling has been broken. So, so I set that goal, and I finally reached that goal, 20 some odd years later. So,
That's
but
amazing.
but because I had that goal, I had so many people that were willing to help. I had college mentor. I had my godfather. I had so many my uncles, and people at the restaurant. They were all willing to help because they saw that, hey, this kid wants to go somewhere. I'm going to help him. But if you have no goals and you don't know, you're just people. It's very difficult. Even if they wanted to help you, it's very difficult for them to help you.
Right. You guys hear this? You have to have goals. You have to have goals so that other people understand where you want to go so that they can help you, right? So Joseph, tell me, how does this tie into Future Hack? So Future Hack is this new program that I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, and it's where you're teaching young people entrepreneurship. You're actually doing it here in my city at MIT next month. So talk to us about that. Are you going
Yeah.
to be teaching kids how to set up goals?
Yeah. So Future Hack came out of the MIT program called the MIT X Entrepreneurship Bootcamp, which Professor Bill Aulet of MIT started. And, he basically believed that there should be many, many more entrepreneurs in this world going forward. And if you look at our economy, and if you look at the way that technology is changing the world, more and more, there's more and more freelancers, there's more and more entrepreneurs, and even the larger companies. If you look at Google, if you look at Facebook, they're much, much more entrepreneurial companies now. And even the large banks, all they talk about within the large banks are how they can innovate and what fintech products they can create. What are the new online platforms they can create, how they can use blockchain. So even the old 150-year-old banks are thinking about how to, innovate within the banks. So the point of Future Hack is not to create entrepreneurs. It's to create people who think like entrepreneurs, who can really create new products, new solutions wherever they are. So whether they're in their own company, whether they're working for a foundation, uh, and I hope that there's more entrepreneur-minded people in governments. If anybody really needs a lot of innovation, it's the government. So whether you're working for a government agency, you're working in a large corporation, or for your own little company, you have to be innovative going forward. And this is the type of thinking that we teach.
And you're teaching it to teenagers.
Yes.
That's just
and
stunning to me.
Yeah. The reason we're doing that is because that is the age where they haven't been told what they can't do yet.
Yes, they're not corrupted by, I used to call it adult think. There's so many ways that adults talk ourselves out of things based on what we've been told.
Yeah. So, everybody is born very creative, very innovative. If you think about, like how babies and young kids, they're always asking questions. They're always saying, "Hey, why can't we do that? Why can't we do this?" And so we're all born very, very kind of curious and creative. The problem is when we go to school, it's like, okay, don't ask those questions. Just do what you do here and take this test and make sure you pass it. And
I know.
so as you go through school, as you grow older and older, all you do is learn a set of can'ts. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. You cannot do that.
That's right.
So
let me ask you, Joseph. You and I both know how important it is to teach teenagers how to become entrepreneurs. And in Amy Carrier's classroom, we have lots of people who come and join in all of our mentor teachers' lessons every single week because they want to teach the same content to teenagers. And there are a few people in particular who I know will get a lot out of this interview today because they are actively teaching teenagers around the world how to become entrepreneurs. So I want to ask you, what are 3 actionable steps that you can give our viewers right now? Anyone, even if they never thought about teaching a young person how to become an entrepreneur, if they're watching this, what can they do right now? How can they make a difference? How can they empower a teenager they know or a class full of them to become entrepreneurs?
So the first thing that we assume is that the teacher is not the smartest person in the room, or doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room, because what we assume is that Google is now the smartest, or not the smartest, I should say, the biggest resource in the room, right? And Absolutely. The students are the most creative in the room. So the teacher is really just a facilitator. And so what we want to do is really just ask many, many questions and try to guide them. So the first thing that we do is self-discovery, and which means that the basis of all creativity is really understanding who you are and what your talents are and what your passions are. So if I was to tell you to think about a innovation or be creative in something that you really don't care about, mm-hmm. it would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. But if you were always thinking about something, then you're always trying to think about something new, something cool, something more creative for that.
Yeah.
And so it's much easier to be creative and innovative in something that you really love or are passionate about, or something that you really hate and you really want to change, right? So the first thing that we do is really ask them, what they love, what they hate, what their talents are. And so that is really kind of the essence of how we start their journey to creativity, innovation, and then to be an entrepreneur.
Yep.
So, having those ideas. So a lot of times when young people, when I guess when students first come to the class, before we even teach them anything, we say, okay, so what do you want to, what's your idea? And a lot of those ideas come from just a random TV program that they saw, or, it's not really, they really don't understand those problems, or they don't really have any connection to those things. They just picked something out of the blue,
Right.
and they really don't understand those things, and they have no connection. So it's really difficult for them to actually come up with a good solution for those things. So what we want to do is first say, hey, what do you actually really think about all the time, and what is your actual connection to those things? And from there, we can actually, get a lot out of that. So, the actionable points are, really just ask a lot of questions, be the facilitator, and get them going. Teach them 10% of it, and then once you see, so each student is different, right? So once you see what each student is really interested in, and then you can be the provider of resources, right? Then you can say, hey, have you seen this YouTube channel, or have you seen this book? It's a great book that talks about that, and then you guide them to the right entrepreneurs, or the books, or the YouTube channels, or the MOOCs that would help them. So, and even scholarships and stuff like that, and school programs, right? So some of the students are extremely interested in, say, AI, for instance, and some of the best programs in AI are not at the top, schools in the U.S. They're actually, some Canadian schools have some of the world's best AI programs. So,
really? I didn't know that.
Yes, absolutely. So, so it's sometimes it's not just, when you're deciding about a school, it's not just looking down the top 25 U.S. U.S. News and World Reports. It's really digging into, hey, this is what I really want to do, and what is the best program that does that, or who is the best professor that does that, and let me go and learn from him or her, right? So that's really kind of digging in much deeper.
So, okay, we've got number one is ask them what they care about. What are they connected to? Number two, as a mentor, as an adult, you are a guide. So be a guide. No 10%, let them figure out the rest.
That's right.
And number three is act as a resource, act as a connector to help the young person that you're working with make connections to people, to resources, to books, to schools. Help them, guide them, mentor them along this journey. I love that, Joseph, because nowhere in what you said did you say, Amy, first thing is teach them the outline of a business plan. Second thing is teach them how to write their budget. That comes later. That does not matter.
In fact, those are really easy things to learn. Those don't even require me to kind of guide them, because there are things where I can just put a video on for them, and they'll learn it in like no time. Those are the easy parts. The harder parts is really getting that passion out of them, getting that Mars shot goal out of them, and really guiding them towards that. That's the more challenging part. The easy part is how to do a pitch, how to do your business model. Those are kind of, they're textbook stuff, and we have plenty of books for that.
Right. Yep. What we don't have books for, and what you cannot learn from a book, is how to connect with people, how to connect with your passion. So I love that. Thank you. So you've kind of already answered one of my other questions, but I'm going to ask you, what's your recipe for success? If somebody wants to be teaching young people entrepreneurship, we just learned the top 3 tips for them to do this. But how can they actually be successful if they decide to embark on what you and I believe is the most important work we can do, helping young people to become entrepreneurs? What else? What's the other ingredient that they need in their recipe for success?
Well, I mean, the other ingredient is to connect with a community that can help them do that. And that's the first thing that I did when I realized, when I sold my business a few years ago, I wanted to, move on from Wall Street and actually start to teach. And I realized that, the school system was really teaching a lot of the same stuff that I learned when I was in school.
I
And so,
know.
uh,
Terrible.
yeah, so, yeah,
Hmm.
right.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So it's a long process, but I think it can be done. But the first thing that I did was really kind of reach out to the MIT community. I also took the Singularity class, Singularity University, um, and another program called Hive. And so all of these are great communities. And once you kind of join these communities, you really get not just you learn kind of more of the framework on how to teach a lot of this, but also you have other collaborators that you can team up with and actually get some of this stuff done. And one of the most important things that MIT teaches is that the idea is only a very small part of the success, right? It's the team that and the execution that creates that executes on the idea, and that's what brings it to fruition. Yeah,
absolutely. I want to underscore that. I want everyone to hear it, that it's not just your idea. I just yesterday had a conversation with someone who said, "Oh, I've got a great idea." Well, you know what? Great ideas are a dime a dozen. There are lots of great ideas. It's about the people behind the idea. Investors don't invest in ideas, they invest in people.
that's right.
So now, Joseph, I know we don't have you for much longer. So I'm going to just say to our audience right now, I want you to post some questions that you have for Joseph in the comments. Go ahead and post them right now, even if you asked them before, because they'll be at the top of the list and I'll be able to ask them. So while we're waiting for our viewers to come up with questions, again, Joseph Jeong is an expert in this area, and he was on Wall Street, and he's an investor. So he knows what he's doing. He knows how to hack this teaching and learning around entrepreneurship, and he knows how to build relationships in communities. So these are the types of things you can ask him questions about. You can ask him questions about teaching young people entrepreneurship. And I'm going to ask him one question now and then one question at the end. And the question at the end, Joseph, is your call to action. What do you want our viewers to do next? And be sure to tell us how we can connect with you. But also, what do you want people to go out and do just to change things, change the status quo, be disruptors? So we'll ask that. I'll ask that question again at the end. But for now, while we're waiting for those questions from the audience, why don't you tell us what's your final word? I mean, what's going on with you right now? What's the last thing that you want to say to anyone watching this interview today?
Yeah, I think one of the first things is that many people are going to be looking at. So this is not just for the youth. This extends to many people out there who are thinking about changing careers or are forced to change careers because of automation. And this is going to be a much more prevalent thing in this world. It's not any one country's problem. it is everybody's issue going forward, is that automation is going to take place in every single industry imaginable. And so you're either fighting it or you're actually going with it and actually saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to learn all about it. And in fact, as a trader making over, a seven-figure salary, you would think that that would be the last job that would be, able to be automated, which in fact was one of the first jobs that were automated, because we were paid so much that it was cost effective for them to automate traders. Okay. Now, obviously, the higher skilled traders still exist today, and we still trade and everything else. But if you look at the number of traders on Wall Street and around the world, it's cut down by, I don't know, 60-70% already, because all of the automation, the algorithms do all the trading now.
It's amazing. And it's amazing how fast that happened too.
Oh, that happened in no time. And the New York Stock Exchange was taken over by ICE, which ICE started out in, I think, like 2000 or something like that. And New York Stock Exchange is like 150 years old institution. And, and all of these new institutions are just getting, taken over. And if you look at the New York Stock Exchange, it's just it's a show place now. It's not, it's not an actual trading floor now. And if you look at all the trading floors around the world, they're gone, because you know what? Computers do that now.
Right.
You don't have people screaming anymore.
Right.
And, so that's one job that has been completely kind of automated, and very few people actually talk about that.
It's wild. I have to tell you that in the summer of 2006, I took a graduate course in insurance, and I was in New York, and as teachers, we were actually invited to come to the New York Stock Exchange and see the trading floor. This was the summer of 2006. It was still looking like a trading floor, but if I had gone into this program a year later, I wouldn't have been able to see that. So it's kind of like I saw history happening, and history just before it died, But you're absolutely right. So trading is it's all AI. It's all computerized. It's all technology based.
Yeah. So, I mean, towards the end of that, I was, they asked the traders to actually help create the algorithms that would replace them.
Really?
And so, yes. And so, the whole trading floor is run by algorithms now. And, and most of the volume that's happening in, on the exchanges are all computerized trading. So we take that kind of for granted already, but it's only been, less than 5 years since that's happened.
Yeah.
So there's many other industries that are going to be like this. And, instead of fighting it, I've said, hey, look, I want to go into education and I want to learn something new. Yeah. And so, I think other people, this is one thing that I would say, is that you should embrace the change and say, hey, what can I learn about a new career? What can I learn about the new technologies that are going on right now? What can I learn about blockchain? How do I, create something using blockchain? How do I create something using AI? And it's actually a lot easier than you would think. You think it's this, 10-year thing, but you can learn things in much shorter time frames now, because you have all of these new resources, new programs. Even the universities have short-term programs now.
Yes, exactly. So everything moves so quickly. People don't have 2 years to dedicate
Yeah,
getting a degree.
4 years.
Yeah, that too. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, I am looking for, we only have time probably for just one question. So let's look at what we've got here for questions. Everyone, please take a moment, write your questions in the comments, and I'll go through and I'll look for a question for Joseph. And stick with us because in just a few minutes, Joseph's actually going to give you his call to action. And this is definitely someone you want to follow. You want to watch, you want to pay attention to, and you want to connect with. Now, I know a lot of the people viewing this like to just add people as friends on Facebook. That doesn't work. So be smart about adding him to your network. How would you do that? You would probably send a message. You would probably go read his writing. You'd go do some research and find out that he was on, in Forbes magazine. Learn those things, and that will help you connect to a stranger. This is something that Joseph and I both teach young people. So if we're teaching young people, of course, it's exactly what you need to do as well. So I do see a question here from Julia Neiman. And I see from Stephen Putter. So let's see. Do we have any more questions? I will look at these and we will put them on screen. So let me read these two comments, Joseph, and then you can choose which one or both if you have time. So
Mhm.
Julia has a question here. Do you have any tips where to find young people online? And what is a good approach to connect with them? Then Stephen Putter says, I think agriculture. Stephen Putter is in Zambia. And there's a great, Stephen Putter did a testimonial video for the value of the classroom. So I'm not surprised he's here because he's taking everything he's learning about entrepreneurship and teaching rural farmers in Zambia how to turn their farms into businesses. So that's the kind of
Okay.
impact we're having here in the classroom. And he says, I think agriculture is a stabilizer if it's based on small scale, organic, bio-intensive farms. Um, and with some of the latest technology, what role do you see agriculture playing in the future? Um, and then Saman, I'm asking you three questions at once and not putting them on screen. That's not really fair of me, but I'll let you just figure out what you resonate with. Um, Saman, who's the assistant, the young Pakistani woman who's the assistant for the classroom, she says, can you tell us about Future Hack's new program, Global Innovators Bootcamp? So there you go. There's three questions. Can you answer all
Okay.
of them?
Sure. First of all, I think the question about agriculture, some of the technologies that I would, kind of look into is, I'm sure that some of the new financing, microfinancing technologies are already, you're probably already using. And also, in I don't know enough about agriculture, but I do know some of the technologies in terms of microfinancing, which is really important for agriculture, for small farms. Um, the other thing is kind of looking at I guess other technologies in terms of transportation, and just getting the getting it pre-sold so that you can deliver the goods already pre-sold. So there are other types of platforms out there for those things, and it's really kind of interesting what's going on in kind of the whole blockchain, in terms of allowing people without bank accounts to really be able to access financing and stuff like that, and be able to exchange and sell goods across borders even without a bank account. So I mean, the one thing that gets me is um, when you watch, TV and CNBC or something, and they're like, "Who needs blockchain? Who needs cryptocurrencies? We have banks, and we have these institutions." Actually, a third of the world doesn't, and,
Right.
if you look at Argentina, Venezuela, you look at a few of the African currencies. Every few years they go defunct. So a lot of more than a third of the world experience problems that you know uh, in developed worlds we don't think about. We're like, why
Right.
do you need blockchain? What do you
Exactly.
need all this cryptocurrencies for? Everybody has a bank account. Everybody has who needs everybody has stable currencies. Look at my dollar, it's so stable. Actually, have you looked at the Venezuelan currency? Have you looked at the other currencies
Right.
that are going through? You know, it's just crazy how people dismiss these technologies and say, "Well, we all have these things." They obviously haven't looked. They haven't been around, I guess. you know,
Well,
so yeah,
that's often why people feel that the West is so arrogant. And
yeah,
I'm
I,
really glad that you brought that up because we need to be looking at solutions and technologies that reach around the world. That's why I
yeah,
set up this group on Facebook, which now reaches around the world, because for me it's a social justice and a basic human right to have
yeah,
access to these skills that everyone needs, right?
absolutely.
So
So
thank you.
I want to tie that into Future Hack, the program that we're doing. Uh, so this summer, we probably have around, I don't know, 15 different country, kids from 15 different countries coming, from the age of 13 to 18 years old.
Coming here to Boston, to MIT.
To Boston, yes, yes, to MIT and Harvard,
Amazing.
and one of the main reasons that we have so many countries is that we really want people from the developed world to learn about the what's happening in some of the emerging countries, and vice versa. We want them to see all these issues and problems from all different angles and different perspectives. This is how they really understand what they should be creating, what is really important, and this is what really creates people that can change the world
Hmm.
tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's when they get exposed to this type of um, uh, diverse cultures and all of these diverse problems, then they really start to understand, hey, this is what really needs to be changed in the world, and this is what I must do. And then they really understand their mission in life, and from there, it's easy to teach them the basic entrepreneurship stuff, because then they have a mission. Once they have a mission, man, you can teach them anything.
It's so true. It's so
Yeah,
true. Yes. You and I have both done that. So I'm
yeah,
really glad that, first of all, thank you for answering three questions at once. I'm really glad, someone, that you put that question up on screen because that's actually a good segue. I have two questions for you, Joseph. First of all, you're going to be here. So you and I will absolutely have lunch. We will meet in person. And I would
yeah,
love to do, a live broadcast in the classroom to say, hey, look, Joseph and I are in the same place. Um, but also, I would love to ask you. You know a little bit about the virtual classroom, Amy Carrier's classroom, and I would love for you to get involved with us and become a mentor teacher. And we can talk about how and what that would look like later. But for now, I think there's such a brilliant opportunity for you to just go live in our classroom during the last 2 weeks of July to show viewers what happens when you're in your boot camp and you're teaching these kids from these, how many different countries? 18 different countries?
Yeah. Well, I haven't counted exactly, but last year was 12, so we're expecting more than that this year.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, would you go live in our classroom and just broadcast on your own schedule when something cool happens to show the
Absolutely.
world this is how
Absolutely.
even kids can do it?
Yes,
Excellent.
absolutely. I'd be happy to.
Thank you so much. That'll be really amazing. So, for those of you who are members of the classroom, be sure to sign up and make your settings show anytime someone goes live in the classroom. And second of all, if you're watching this and you're not a member of the classroom, go to amycarriersclassroom.com and you can become a member today. Just answer the 3 questions. That's my only call to action for you today. Join my free classroom. Joseph said, take advantage. That's what his whole life has been about. Take advantage of what's out there for you for free now. So that's my call to action. And I want to thank everybody for being here. But Joseph, I want to know, what's your call to action? What do you want to ask the audience to do right now? And how can they connect with you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll put the LinkedIn, here, and I'll also put the Facebook. Um, uh, I'll also put the Facebook link here as well.
Great.
And I mean, we're always looking to expand our network of friends and collaborators. So, if you want to join kind of the movement to teach more young people, and, really get them to be inspired and self-motivated learners that can really tackle any problem and come up with a solution. Those are the people that we want to really to work with us, and we are definitely looking for collaborators around the world that want to have this program in their countries, whether it's physical programs or online programs. Whatever you're thinking, we can talk about those types of collaboration. So please contact me, and look at futurehack.co is our website. So connect with me on the website, connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those channels would be great, and or just ask Amy and she'll give you my details as well.
Yes. And and it's not .com, it's .co. I'm putting it on the screen here. Futurehack.co. And and it will be an outstanding opportunity for you to connect with Joseph as we bring him into Amy Carrier's classroom and have him get more involved. That'll help build what he's building around the world. Like I said, we reach 86 countries right now. And it'll also give you an opportunity to expand your network. So absolutely go to futurehack.co right now, sign up, and go out and make a difference. Make a difference in the world. You've heard Joseph's story. He started out with nothing. He didn't have money. He didn't have 2 parents. So if you are sitting in a place in the world right now where you feel, I can't do it because I don't have money, because I don't have a father with a reputation, because I don't live somewhere where I have access to things, all of those at this point are just excuses, because we build community online. And as Joseph said in the very beginning, Google has everything you'll ever want. We're really fortunate to live in the age of Google. Let me tell you, I didn't grow up with Google. Joseph didn't grow up with Google. So Joseph, I'm really, really happy that we did this today. And thank you for squeezing me into your schedule before you start hopping on some planes and flying around the world. And I'm really excited to meet you next month in person. That'll be really wonderful.
Yes, I look forward to sitting down with you and talking a lot more about how to make this even a bigger project.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, that's the thing. When we bring 2 projects together, it's bigger. It affects more
Yes.
people. It changes the world. So go out and do that yourselves. And Joseph, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late at night. It's midnight for you now, my friend. So I will bid you adieu and let you actually maybe go to sleep. But I did hear that your creative hours, 2 a.m. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't disrupt your sleep schedule. All right. So thank you
Okay.
to Joseph. Thank you to everybody here. And on behalf of the more than 5,600 students we have in this amazing virtual classroom, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you, Joseph, for your time. And thank you to the viewers for sharing this video. I didn't ask you to do that up front, but share now because there's a lot of information in here that can be learned by people. So thank you all for participating and joining in my latest Rockstar Entrepreneur interview with Joseph Jeong. And stay tuned for the next one. I just find amazing people all over the world, and we do this. All right, Joseph, thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Take good care.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.